Oklahoma teachers have decided to finally fight back. Take a look at this. Teachers seize every floor of Oklahoma Capitol during strike. So that, of course, is in the Hill. They say an estimated 36,000 people stormed the Capitol and stood outside. 36,000, Jesus. The strike moved into a third day on Wednesday as public schools remain closed due to staff shortages. The teachers are pushing for a $10,000 pay increase over 3 years. They also want a $5,000 increase for support staff. Oklahoma teachers receive an average salary of $42,460 a year, less than teachers in nearly every other state, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Many Republican lawmakers have been resisting the requested funding. Governor Mary Fallin said on Tuesday that the teachers are asking for more funding like, quote, a teenager wanting a better car. Kentucky teachers are also on strike, and Arizona could see a similar statewide walkout soon. So this is great news, and it's great news because people are finally fighting for, basic economic rights and a decent wage. And this was all sparked by the West Virginia teachers' strike. And they were asking for a 5% pay raise in February, and they got it. And they didn't take no for an answer. And I love that story for so many reasons, but probably the biggest reason is that here you have what's considered a very red state, very Republican state. And you have people fighting for a pay raise. This is a union fight for a pay raise, and it succeeded. So, and this goes to one of the main points that I talk about on this show all the time, which is the Democrats need to have a 50-state strategy. And they need to have a 50-state strategy and actually fight for the right things that would help the American people. And those things include Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars, a New Deal. But unionization is a big part of this because it's simply a fact that in U.S. history, the middle class was the strongest it's ever been when unionization rates were the highest it ever was. So we know that unions, and it's not to say unions are perfect. Of course they're not perfect. There are downsides to unions, and I think everybody understands that. But in some ways, it's almost a necessary evil. Even if you agree that, hey, unions maybe go too far in some ways and they overprotect workers and it's too hard to fire people and all that stuff. You could, look at the situation objectively and say, yeah, they may have a point there. But at the same time, if you don't have unionization, the result is an all-out war on the middle class and stagnating wages for the American people from the 1980s and onward. We have unionization rates are at a historic low right now, and we also have a record-level income inequality happening right now. So we know that unionization makes it so the middle class is strong. And we have so many examples of that. In West Virginia, they fought and they won. Now Oklahoma said, we've had enough and we're going to fight. And understand, we covered a story not that long ago about how teachers in Oklahoma, many of them in some of the districts, they moved the school week to 4 days instead of 5 days. And they did that so that the teachers can go work at Walmart on the 5th day so that they can pay their bills. There was another thing I saw on Twitter. I'm not sure if it was a West Virginia teacher or an Oklahoma teacher, but they were donating, they were donating blood or plasma or something. And they said, I need to do this in order to pay the bills. And think about it. What they're asking for, I don't think is unreasonable. They're already one of the lowest paid. They are, I don't know if it's the lowest paid in terms of teachers across the U.S. or the second lowest paid or something like that. But to have, a group of people responsible for raising the next generation of Americans and to kind of have their pay be an afterthought and their pay not even put them necessarily solidly in the middle class, and a lot of them are struggling, I think that's unconscionable. Because obviously, the government can always find a way to dig up the money for endless war They never say, I don't know if we can afford it. Really, bombing Syria? Really bombing Niger? We're going to bomb 8 different countries? I don't know, man. How can we afford all these fighter jets? How can we afford all these missiles? How can we afford all these bombs and all these tanks? It strikes me that we're just wasting so much money on this. Nobody ever says that. Nobody even says it about tax cuts for the rich. You know, Trump and the Republicans just did a tax bill. 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%. It adds $1.4 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. And nobody said, you know, I don't know if we can afford this. It just strikes me as, you know, not something that we could afford. Because here's the deal. When you view something as, you know, already built into your value structure and as part of your moral system, then, you know, how we pay for it is, I don't know, we'll figure that out later. But all I know is we value this issue so much that the money is not really, shouldn't even be weighed that heavily in the consideration of whether or not we do this. But, and that's the thing, is that's why when it comes to tax cuts for the rich, that's why when it comes to war, that question's never asked. But of course, when it comes to education, and when it comes to healthcare, oh my God, how can we afford it? This is crazy, let's not do it. So, you know, I support them 100%. What happened is they already succeeded a little bit. Because the governor said, again, Republican governor, said, okay, we'll sign a bill with a $6,000 pay raise over 3 years. And they were like, thanks, but no thanks. We're asking for a $10,000 raise over 3 years, and that's what you're going to give us. And we're not going to go back to work until you give us that raise. So I love that. And this is how negotiations work, man. And you see this from the Republicans all the time. They'll take a position and they'll go, no, this is our position. We're not going to fucking budge from this. And then the Democrats go, okay, we'll meet you halfway. And then the Republicans go, no, fuck you. This is our position. And the Democrats go, okay, we'll meet you 75% of the way in your direction. And the Republicans go, no, this is our fucking position. And the Democrats go, okay, we'll give you everything you want. And then we go, oh, we made a deal, bipartisanship. We gave the Republicans everything they wanted. Well, now you see teachers' unions fighting, and they're using those negotiation tactics. They're saying, no, this is our position, and you're going to give us our position. Guess what? We have all the clout. We have all the power. You don't want us to go back to work? Fine. None of the kids will get taught. How you like them apples? We're going to have to shut down all the schools. How you like that? You need the schools, right? Everybody needs the schools. So, okay, we're asking for a $10,000 raise over 3 years. That's what you're going to fucking give us. We're not asking for that much, because I'm sure even with this raise, they're going to be one of the lowest paid in terms of teachers across the U.S. So that's what you're going to give us. That's the end of the debate. That's the end of the conversation. Do it. So this is what we need. We need people on the left who take no shit and who are willing to fight. And who are willing to fight for workers, for the people. And of course, this whole conversation is largely missing from the media because they don't want to start a brush fire. Like I said, in West Virginia, that barely got coverage, but word got around on the internet what was happening in West Virginia. And guess what? They won. And then people in Oklahoma went, I don't know, man, looks like that's something maybe we should do. Now they're doing it. Then I also said Kentucky, another one, Arizona, another one. And they're going, hey, we actually have the power. We have power in numbers here. And if we start fighting, we could just not stop until we get what we want. And again, they're not being unreasonable. What they're asking for is not that difficult. You know, they're not all asking for $200,000 a year, you know, and a mansion. They're asking for, hey, can we maybe get a reasonable raise since we haven't had a pay increase in a long time and some of us work at fucking Walmart to pay the bills even though we're teachers and this is our profession? So I support them 100%. I wish the media would cover this in a serious way, because if the media covered this in a serious way, then you'd have so many more examples of workers fighting together and doing collective bargaining. So I wish the media would cover this, and I wish the Democrats would all say, oh shit, that's what we're supposed to be about. Because, of course, everybody knows the Democrats a long time ago got in bed with Wall Street and Big Pharma and the for-profit health insurance companies, and they took a lot of the same corporatist tricks out of the Republican playbook, so the Democrats abandoned working people. They were the party of workers. Now they're not the party of workers. Now they're the fake party of workers. They pretend to be for the workers as they have the same special interests as many of the Republicans. So the Democrats are not really on board with fighting with these teachers. But if they were, I mean, again, you want to talk about a blue wave. Could you imagine if you had a Democratic Party that was unapologetic and standing with workers? Could you imagine if you had a Democratic Party that actually stood for something and said, we're going to end the wars and we're going to legalize marijuana and we're going to end the drug war and we're going to get a living wage and Medicare for all? If that was the Democratic Party, you would see historic dominance in the next few election cycles. So, look, we have the blueprint, but the politicians actually need to be for the right things, and unfortunately, they're not. So, keep fighting. I stand in solidarity 100% with the Oklahoma teachers. I stand in solidarity with the Kentucky teachers and the Arizona teachers and the West Virginia teachers and all these teachers who want to fight back. And listen, if you're a worker and let's say you're not a teacher or you're not in a union job, listen, man, however you can, find a way to talk to your fellow workers and get together and try to fight back against the corporate dominance and the rigid hierarchy and the top-down style of an economy, because you need to have some sort of counterbalance to runaway, greedy capitalists. You need to have, something that really balances out the scales and makes it so that you don't have insane income inequality that's nearly incomprehensible. So let's go, man. I keep saying it, but it's true. We need a general strike. If we did a general strike, we can get whatever we want in a year. Because the fucking country can't function if there's a general strike. If everybody gets together and is like, yeah, we're just not going to work until you meet our demands, and here are our demands. Well, then they have no choice. What are you going to do? Just fine. Let's just turn our country into the Walking Dead overnight. No, they're going to capitulate as long as our demands are reasonable, and they are. Hey, can we just be like every other social democracy in the world? As long as your demands are reasonable, and they are, they're going to capitulate if you say nobody's working until we do that. So this is the path forward, man. People banding together and fighting the powers that be. And I'm just excited when I see all these news stories, and it's just a goddamn shame that the Democrats aren't doing the right thing here, and the media is largely absent.